Confidence is not something you are born with. It is built silently every single day in the small actions you take when no one is watching. Most people chase approval, mimic others, or wait for some magical moment. But real confidence grows through habits, discipline, and relentless self-training. In the next hour, I will show you exactly how to stop doubting yourself, stop performing for validation, and start living with an inner assurance so powerful it cannot be shaken. Pay attention, because the life you want begins the moment you stop faking it and start building it. Chapter 1. Stop proving and start doing. Confidence is not something you negotiate. It is not granted by others. It is not earned through approval. It is built through consistent, deliberate action. You have a choice. You can spend your life trying to prove your worth, or you can spend your life doing the work that creates real, unshakable self-belief. That's the key. Most people waste energy on proving. They explain themselves. They justify decisions. They seek validation for actions already taken. They are trapped by other people's opinions. You do not need their permission. You do not need their praise. Every minute spent proving is a minute lost from doing. Confidence does not come from applause. It comes from action. It comes from mastery. It comes from the accumulation of completed tasks. Action is the currency of belief. You take one step, then another. Each completed step compounds into certainty. Each avoided step compounds into doubt. Stop proving. Start doing. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to your internal architecture of self-trust. Consider the entrepreneur. Most entrepreneurs fail not because they lack ideas. They fail because they spend too much time convincing others their idea is valid. They craft perfect presentations. They seek approval before moving. They wait for validation. Meanwhile, execution passes them by. The ones who succeed are quiet. They act. They iterate. They move in the absence of approval. They build systems. They produce results. That is how confidence grows. Not by explanation, not by persuasion, by doing. Let's break this down into rules you can apply immediately. Rule 1. Limit explanation. You have no obligation to justify yourself. Not to colleagues, not to friends, not to strangers. Every explanation that serves only to convince someone else is energy diverted from execution. You do not need their permission. You do not need their understanding. Focus your energy on action. If a task requires explanation, complete it first. Then, and only then, explain if necessary. Rule 2. Measure through action, not approval. Set clear metrics for success. Metrics are internal. They are quantifiable. They are repeatable. For example, I will write 1 report per day. I will make 5 sales calls before noon. I will complete this module today. These are measurable. Approval is not measurable. Praise is not measurable. Action is measurable. Confidence is measurable. You have a choice. Decide what counts. Execute. Track. Repeat. Rule 3. Prioritize execution over persuasion. Every hour spent convincing someone of your capability is an hour not spent improving it. You do not need their belief to succeed. You only need your own. Build competence first. Build skill first. Build results first. Once results exist, others will notice. That is the natural order. Do not reverse it. That is the key. Most people misunderstand confidence. They confuse it with charm. They confuse it with charisma. They confuse it with loudness. That is a flaw. It is not about charm. It is about discipline. It is not about charisma. It is about consistency. It is not about loudness. It is about quiet, repeated action. Repetition creates certainty. Certainty creates self-belief. Self-belief creates natural confidence. Every action compounds into belief. Now, consider your daily routine. Identify where you spend time proving. What do you explain unnecessarily? Where do you seek validation? This is where doubt thrives. This is where confidence erodes. These moments are not neutral. They either build belief or they destroy it. Most destroy it. You have a choice. Stop. Redirect that energy. Start doing. Let's make this practical. Every morning, choose one task you will complete before anyone else sees it. No approval, no report, no explanation. Simply act. Complete it. Reflect on the result. Observe the confidence that grows from the completion alone. This is a simple, repeatable system. Action first, validation later. Often not needed at all. That is the principle. That is the structure. Understand this. The mind adapts to repeated behavior. If you repeatedly act without seeking approval, you train your brain to trust your own judgment. Self-doubt weakens. Dependence on external validation disappears. Habit replaces hesitation. Discipline replaces fear. Action becomes automatic. That is the system. That is the rule. That is how confidence compounds. Repetition is non-negotiable. One completed action is a seed. 10 repeated actions form a pattern. 30 repeated actions form identity. That is the progression. Action compounds. Action compounds. Action compounds. Every day, without fail, the small steps accumulate into a foundation no one can shake. That is the nature of disciplined self-belief. Do not confuse busyness with progress. Doing many things without focus is still proving. Select the actions that matter. Execute them. Track them. Repeat them. That is the system of unshakable confidence. Focused execution is the antidote to doubt. Repetition is the vehicle. Discipline is the engine. You have a choice. Act with purpose. Act with structure. Act consistently. Examples from history reinforce this principle. Scientists, inventors, and military leaders rarely sought approval before acting. They executed in silence. They refined in private. They iterated on small successes. Confidence grew internally. Others noticed later. Your life can follow the same formula. Quiet action first. Recognition second. Results only matter to you first. That is how you train your mind to trust itself. Let's summarize the operational rules from this chapter. Stop explaining unnecessarily. Limit external validation. Focus on results. Measure action, not approval. Track tasks and completion. Confidence is quantifiable. Prioritize execution over persuasion. Build competence first. Recognition follows. Systematize daily micro-actions. Complete tasks before anyone notices. Repeat. Trust repetition. Confidence compounds through repeated behavior, not intention. You have a choice. You can continue proving. You can continue seeking permission. You can continue delaying action. Or you can start doing. Every action compounds into belief. Stop proving. Start doing. That is the foundation. That is the principle. That is the system that underpins all further confidence training. In the next chapter, we will examine the silent cost of seeking validation. You will learn how constantly looking outside yourself for approval destroys confidence, and how to replace it with a structured system of internal assessment. For now, take this principle and apply it. Do not wait. Do not debate. Action comes first. Execution comes first. Start doing. Chapter 2. The silent cost of seeking validation. Validation is a trap. It is a subtle, silent drain on your mind. It consumes your energy before you even notice it. You have a choice. You can allow the opinions of others to dictate your actions, or you can anchor yourself in internal certainty. That's the key. Confidence is earned internally, silently, daily. Most people are unaware of how often they seek validation. It shows in every decision, every hesitation, every attempt to explain themselves. You choose your words carefully because you fear judgment. You delay action because you fear criticism. You conform because you fear rejection. Every moment spent seeking approval compounds doubt. Every moment spent measuring yourself against others erodes your inner authority. You do not need their permission. You do not need their approval. You need your own discipline. You need your own certainty. Consider social media. A simple scroll triggers comparison in 90% of users. Likes, comments, shares, all become a measure of worth. You compare achievements, appearance, and lifestyle. Your mind interprets the curated image as reality. Doubt creeps in. You question your own competence. You question your own value. That is the silent cost. It is not always loud. It is not always obvious. Yet it shapes your identity. It dictates your choices. It limits your action. You have a choice. Step away. Observe. Act without seeking recognition. That is the principle. Validation is seductive. It feels necessary. It feels like reassurance. It is neither. It is a shortcut to temporary comfort. True confidence is not a feeling. It is a skill. It is a system. It is built quietly, repeatedly, internally. Validation interrupts the system. It introduces volatility. It makes you reactive. Reactivity is the enemy of confidence. Repetition is the ally. Discipline is the path. That is the rule. Rule 1. Audit your dependence on approval. Track every decision you make that is influenced by what others might think. Every yes you give because you fear rejection. Every no you suppress because you fear judgment. Write them down. Observe the pattern. Awareness precedes action. Awareness is the first system in breaking the cycle. You have a choice. You can continue to surrender your autonomy, or you can reclaim it. Rule 2. Build an internal feedback loop. Replace external validation with internal assessment. Create measurable standards for yourself. Examples. Did I complete the task I committed to? Did I act according to my principles? Did I move closer to my goal today? These metrics are quantifiable. They are repeatable. They are silent. They build confidence independently of praise or critique. Confidence is earned internally, silently, daily. That is the system. That is the rule. Rule 3. Limit exposure to approval triggers. Identify sources that constantly demand your attention and comparison. Social media, certain colleagues, groups that amplify insecurity. Limit time. Control consumption. Your environment shapes your mind. Remove passive traps. Replace them with actions that reinforce competence. Reading, skill building, reflection, execution. That is the discipline. That is the choice. That is how confidence grows. Understand this. Self-doubt is not inherent. It is trained. You have trained it by prioritizing others' opinions over your own judgment. Every moment you pause to ask, what will they think? You reinforce the habit. Every moment you act without seeking approval, you weaken the habit. This is the battleground. Awareness is the first step. Action is the second. Repetition is the victory. That is the system. Let's consider a real-world example. A young professional scrolls through social media each morning. She sees colleagues receiving awards, friends posting achievements, influencers showcasing lifestyles. She pauses. She compares. She questions her own progress. Self-doubt grows. Action stalls. She loses momentum. Meanwhile, another professional avoids these triggers. He focuses on his own measurable tasks. He executes silently. He completes goals. His confidence compounds daily. He does not need recognition. He does not need applause. That is the difference. Validation is a trap. Confidence is earned internally, silently, daily. Repetition matters. Every choice to act without seeking approval compounds. Every choice to delay action for judgment compounds doubt. The brain adapts to repeated behavior. External reliance becomes weaker as internal standards strengthen. Your nervous system begins to trust itself. Your decisions become automatic. Your confidence becomes natural. That is the principle. That is the system. That is the rule. You may notice discomfort. That is expected. Removing validation creates silence where reassurance once existed. Your mind may rebel. It will prompt comparison. It will remind you of judgment. That is normal. Do not yield. That is the test. Each time you resist, the habit strengthens. Each time you act independently, the skill grows. Confidence is not comfortable. It is calibrated. It is earned. It is structured. Let's operationalize this into a repeatable system. Morning check-in. Identify one task you will complete today without telling anyone. Track completion privately. Measure only yourself. Exposure control. Limit social media and comparison triggers to scheduled periods. Reduce unintentional validation seeking. Internal feedback loop. At the end of the day, review completed actions against measurable standards. Praise internally. Reflect silently. Adjust for tomorrow. Repeat this daily. Silent action compounds into belief. Habit replaces doubt. Discipline replaces insecurity. Confidence is not public. It is internal. That is the system. That is the structure. That is how mastery is built. Remember this. Validation is seductive. It promises certainty but delivers dependence. Confidence is earned silently. Confidence is reinforced daily. Confidence grows through consistent, deliberate action. Every day, you have a choice. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. You do not need their approval. You do not need their recognition. You only need your own discipline. That is the principle. That is the rule. That is the path to unshakable confidence. As you conclude this chapter, carry one instruction forward. Audit every action that seeks approval. Replace it with measured, silent action. Observe the effect. Track the growth. That is the next level. That is preparation for the chapter ahead. In the next chapter, you will learn the daily habits that build inner strength, a system of repeated micro-actions that cement confidence at a structural level. For now, implement silence. Implement internal feedback. Implement discipline. That is your assignment. That is your choice. That is the rule. Chapter 3. Daily habits that build inner strength. Confidence is not a feeling. It is not a gift. It is not a reaction to circumstances. Confidence is a series of disciplined routines. Repeated consistently, these routines shape the mind, the body, and the decisions you make. You have a choice. You can wait for confidence to appear, or you can build it. That's the key. Small daily actions build unstoppable confidence. Most people misunderstand confidence. They look for it in results, recognition, or circumstance. They think a single achievement will make them self-assured. That is a flaw. Confidence is not a single moment. It is a system. It is daily practice. It is silent repetition. Every completed habit compounds into belief. Every skipped habit compounds doubt. You do not need permission. You do not need recognition. You need discipline. You need structure. You need repetition. That is the principle. Consider a simple system. Begin with the morning. Most people rush into the day, reacting to notifications, messages, and external demands. Their focus is fragmented. Their confidence is shallow. Instead, create a morning routine. Journal for 10 minutes. Record your priorities, your intentions, your commitments. Observe your thoughts. Decide which deserve attention. Small, deliberate reflection creates clarity. Clarity creates certainty. Certainty builds self-trust. You have a choice. Start the day with structure, not reaction. That is the rule. That is the system. Next, practice deliberate silence. In a world that demands constant input, silence is rare. It is uncomfortable. That is why it is effective. 30 minutes of silence each day, without phones, without notifications, without conversation, trains the mind to focus. It strengthens awareness. It reveals thoughts without judgment. It allows you to separate impulse from intention. Self-doubt weakens. Self-trust grows. Repetition makes it automatic. Small daily actions build unstoppable confidence. That is the principle. Consider small victories. Confidence compounds through success, but success does not require grandeur. It requires completion. Finish the task you started. Speak up once when you normally stay quiet. Resist one temptation when you normally give in. Each small victory reinforces your competence. Each completed action reinforces belief. Your brain registers these wins. Repetition converts them into habit. Habit converts them into identity. You have a choice. You can wait for a major win, or you can accumulate micro wins. That is the system. That is the rule. Small daily actions build unstoppable confidence. Let's break this into operational rules. Rule 1. Morning journaling as calibration. Each day, write 3 things. 1 commitment to yourself, 1 action that demonstrates competence, and 1 reflection on growth. Do this before consuming external input. Your mind adapts to this structure. You focus on internal benchmarks, not external judgment. Repetition transforms this act into automatic clarity. That is the system. That is the rule. Rule 2. Deliberate silence as mental strength. Schedule 30 to 60 minutes daily for focused silence. No interruptions. No distractions. Observe thoughts, analyze priorities, and eliminate unnecessary mental noise. Silence strengthens your internal voice. Silence sharpens focus. Silence builds confidence independent of approval. You have a choice. You can allow noise to dominate, or you can embrace silence as a tool for mastery. Small daily actions build unstoppable confidence. Rule 3. Small victories as compounded competence. Identify micro actions that move you closer to mastery. Complete them without fanfare. Track them privately. Repeat them daily. Each act strengthens self-trust. Each act reduces doubt. Each act compounds confidence over time. This is not theory. This is practice. Repetition is non-negotiable. Consistency is mandatory. Every small victory contributes to unshakable confidence. That is the system. That is the structure. Most people fail because they treat habits as optional. They believe consistency is flexible. That is a flaw. Confidence is built in the margins, not in grand gestures. Small daily actions repeated without fail are the foundation. The brain responds to repetition. The nervous system adapts to action. Discipline is internalized. That is the principle. That is the rule. That is the truth. Small daily actions build unstoppable confidence. Now, consider integration. Your morning journaling primes intention. Your deliberate silence develops focus. Your small victories reinforce competence. Together, these habits form a system. A repeatable, observable system. One that builds confidence independent of circumstance. Independent of praise. Independent of permission. You have a choice. Implement the system consistently. Repeat it daily. Observe the results. That is how mastery is achieved. That is how belief is forged. That is how confidence becomes internalized. Do not underestimate repetition. 1 completed action is a seed. 10 completed actions form a pattern. 30 completed actions form identity. 60 completed actions form certainty. Repetition compounds like interest in a bank account. Every day, without fail, these small actions accumulate. Every micro habit builds structural confidence. Every avoided habit weakens it. That is the system. That is the discipline. That is the rule. Small daily actions build unstoppable confidence. Expect resistance. The mind seeks comfort. The world demands distraction. Habits will feel unnecessary. Silence will feel uncomfortable. Micro-actions will feel trivial. That is intentional. The system is designed to strengthen internal authority. Do not yield to discomfort. Do not rationalize an action. Act consistently. Repeat actions daily. Track progress. Adjust minimally. Trust the process. That is the principle. That is the system. That is the path to self-assurance. Let's summarize operationally. Morning journaling. Commit, plan, reflect. Track internally. Repeat daily. Deliberate silence. Observe thoughts. Eliminate noise. Sharpen focus. Repeat daily. Small victories. Identify micro-actions. Complete them. Track them privately. Repeat daily. Repetition and integration. Habits compound into belief. Daily action compounds into confidence. That is the system. You have a choice. You can continue reacting to the world. You can continue seeking external approval. Or you can follow this system. You can commit to daily routines. You can build competence in silence. You can accumulate micro wins. Small daily actions build unstoppable confidence. That is the principle. That is the structure. That is the rule. As you complete this chapter, take one instruction forward. Identify one daily habit you will implement immediately. Commit to it. Track it. Repeat it without exception. That is the foundation for the next stage. In the next chapter, we will examine the power of intentional silence, the mental training that amplifies focus, clarity, and internal authority. For now, act. Repeat. Strengthen. Small daily actions build unstoppable confidence. Chapter 4. The Power of Intentional Silence. Silence is strength. Silence is clarity. Silence builds belief. You have a choice. You can surrender to the constant noise around you, or you can claim silence as a tool. That's the key. Confidence is not found in chatter, approval, or applause. It is reinforced in stillness. Most people underestimate the cost of noise. Social media notifications, group messages, gossip, endless conversation. Every intrusion fragments focus. Every interruption erodes self-assurance. Your mind becomes reactive. Your decisions become shallow. Your confidence weakens. You do not need permission to step away. You do not need approval to enforce boundaries. You have a choice. Silence strengthens the internal voice. Silence sharpens the mind. Silence builds belief. Consider CEOs, scientists, and elite performers. They do not fill every moment with activity. They schedule periods of deliberate silence. They reflect. They analyze. They recharge. They act from clarity, not reaction. Their confidence is quiet, steady, and unshakable. Observe the principle. The world rewards those who act with intention, not noise. Silence is a system. Silence is discipline. Silence is control. That is the rule. Rule 1. Schedule silence daily. Block 30 to 60 minutes each day for deliberate silence. No devices. No conversation. No external input. This is not downtime. This is training. During this time, observe thoughts. Do not react to every impulse. Separate urgent from important. Focus on decisions that advance competence. Small daily practice strengthens mental authority. Silence is strength. Silence is clarity. Silence builds belief. Rule 2. Eliminate passive noise. Identify environments and inputs that constantly demand attention. Social media, group chats, news feeds, and idle conversation are all noise. Control exposure. Remove passive triggers. Replace them with tasks that reinforce growth: reading, skill building, reflection, or discipline work. The mind adapts to repeated focus. Distraction weakens focus. Habit strengthens confidence. That is the system. That is the principle. Rule 3. Use silence to reflect on action. Reflection is not thinking randomly. It is structured observation. At the end of your silent period, ask, what actions did I complete today? Did they align with my priorities? What did I resist and why? What small victories did I achieve without recognition? Reflection reinforces the habit of internal evaluation. Confidence grows silently, internally, and consistently. That is the rule. That is the system. Noise creates dependency. It creates reactive behavior. When you constantly react to others' words, opinions, and distractions, you erode self-trust. Decisions are delayed. Actions are compromised. Energy is wasted. You do not need their permission. You do not need external cues to guide your focus. Reclaim control. Use silence as a daily tool. Silence is strength. Silence is clarity. Silence builds belief. Repetition is mandatory. Silence is not a single exercise. It is not optional. It is a system. Daily practice is non-negotiable. Each session compounds mental clarity. Each session reinforces the internal voice. Each session reduces dependence on approval, distraction, and reaction. Over time, silence reshapes identity. The mind becomes disciplined. Decisions become automatic. Self-belief becomes internalized. Small, repeated acts of silence compound into structural confidence. That is the system. That is the rule. That is the principle. Consider the following scenario. A professional constantly checks messages, responds immediately, and scrolls social media. Every interruption splits attention. Every distraction delays execution. Confidence erodes silently. Compare this to a professional who schedules a morning of silent focus. No interruptions. No validation seeking. Tasks are completed with intention. Reflection occurs privately. Internal feedback builds. Confidence strengthens. Results compound. Repetition reinforces the system. That is the difference. That is the rule. Silence is strength. Silence is clarity. Silence builds belief. Practical application. Morning silent block. First hour of the day, no devices, no conversation, no external input. Observe priorities. Plan execution. Reflect internally. Repeat daily. Noise audit. Identify inputs that fragment attention. Limit exposure. Replace with structured tasks. Repeat daily. End-of-day reflection. Quietly review completed tasks. Track alignment with priorities. Note micro wins. Internalize lessons. Repeat daily. This system is not optional. It is foundational. Confidence is structural. It cannot be built in chaos. Noise is structural weakness. Silence is structural strength. You have a choice. You can allow noise to dominate, or you can design your day for focus. You can create the environment that reinforces clarity. That is the principle. That is the rule. That is the system. You will encounter discomfort. Silence feels unnatural. The mind will demand stimulation. It will prompt distraction. That is expected. That is the test. Resistance is the indicator that growth is occurring. Each session you persist, the mind adapts. Each session you resist distraction, focus strengthens. Each session you reflect silently, belief compounds. Discipline is forged in discomfort. Confidence is built quietly, deliberately, and repeatedly. That is the principle. That is the system. That is the rule. Summarized operationally. Schedule silence daily. Train the mind to focus, reflect, and recharge. Eliminate passive noise. Control inputs. Replace with actions that reinforce growth. Use silence to reflect on action. Observe behavior, track micro wins, and internalize confidence. Repeat without exception. Confidence compounds silently, daily, structurally. You have a choice. You can continue to react to noise. You can continue to allow distraction to dictate your mind. Or you can implement deliberate silence. You can reclaim mental authority. You can build confidence structurally. You can reinforce belief daily. Silence is strength. Silence is clarity. Silence builds belief. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. As this chapter concludes, take one instruction forward. Schedule a daily silent block immediately. Commit to it. Observe your thoughts. Track your focus. Repeat without fail. That is preparation for the next stage. In the next chapter, we will explore how to rewire your mind for certainty, transforming thought patterns into unshakable internal authority. For now, act, reflect, reinforce. Silence is strength. Silence is clarity. Silence builds belief. Chapter 5. Rewire your mind for certainty. Certainty is not a gift. It is not luck. It is not determined by circumstance. Certainty is a skill. Your brain can be trained. You can reject self-doubt. You can embrace unwavering confidence. That is the key. Certainty is a choice. Certainty is a habit. Certainty can be trained. Most people assume their thoughts are fixed. Doubt is permanent. Fear is unavoidable. That is a flaw. The brain is adaptable. Neural pathways strengthen with repeated thought and action. Every pattern you repeat, every belief you reinforce, grows stronger. You have a choice. You can allow uncertainty to dominate, or you can create certainty as a daily system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Consider athletes under pressure. Elite performers visualize success. They rehearse victory in the mind before it occurs in reality. Their performance under stress becomes automatic. Self-doubt does not infiltrate. Panic does not disrupt. Confidence is pre-trained. This is not magic. It is repetition. It is structure. It is discipline. You can apply the same principle in your life. Certainty is a skill, not a trait. That is the system. That is the rule. That is the path. Rule 1. Daily mental rehearsal. Choose a scenario that triggers doubt. Visualize the ideal outcome. Picture every step you must take. Engage your senses. Hear it. See it. Feel it. Repeat this exercise daily. Your brain begins to treat imagined success as familiar territory. When a real situation arises, the response becomes automatic. Self-doubt weakens. Confidence emerges. Certainty is a choice. Certainty is a habit. Certainty can be trained. Rule 2. Thought discipline. Observe negative or uncertain thoughts. Name them. Do not react impulsively. Question their validity. Replace them with deliberate, constructive patterns. For example, replace "I might fail" with "I am prepared." I will act. I will adapt. Repetition of disciplined thought rewires neural pathways. Over time, the mind defaults to certainty instead of hesitation. Discipline shapes belief. Repetition reinforces authority. That is the system. That is the rule. Rule 3. Commit to micro-decisions with confidence. Certainty grows through repeated action, not abstract thought. Make small decisions quickly. Own them. Do not seek validation. Accept consequences as learning. Each decision executed with clarity strengthens neural pathways associated with confidence. Each decision delayed or deferred strengthens doubt. Repetition compounds into automatic certainty. Certainty is built daily, intentionally. That is the principle. That is the system. That is the rule. Understand this. Doubt is learned. Self-criticism is learned. Uncertainty is reinforced every time you hesitate, every time you second-guess yourself, every time you defer to others' opinions. That is how the mind adapts. The same process works in reverse. Certainty can be learned. Confidence can be built. Self-trust can be internalized. Repetition is mandatory. Structure is required. Habit is non-negotiable. Certainty is a choice. Certainty is a habit. Certainty can be trained. Practical application. Morning visualization block. Spend 10 minutes visualizing the tasks you will complete today. See each step performed successfully. Feel the emotions of certainty. Repeat daily. Thought observation exercise. Identify recurring doubts. Interrupt them. Replace with deliberate constructive statements. Repeat daily. Micro-decision practice. Make 5 small decisions each day without hesitation. Track completion privately. Observe the effect on self-trust. Repeat daily. Repetition is essential. 1 visualization is a seed. 10 repeated visualizations create patterns. 30 repeated visualizations solidify identity. 60 repeated visualizations reinforce certainty as default. The nervous system adapts. The brain internalizes confidence. The mind becomes disciplined. Certainty transforms from aspiration into automatic response. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Expect discomfort. The mind resists change. Old habits of doubt feel safe. Uncertainty feels natural. That is why structured repetition is required. Discomfort signals adaptation. Do not yield. Persist. Repeat the exercises daily. Strengthen the pathways. Fortify belief. Certainty is reinforced silently, internally, consistently. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Consider the practical effect. In business, negotiations, or personal challenges, decisive action projects confidence. Hesitation invites doubt. Execution under certainty inspires trust, both internally and externally. Repeated practice ensures that confidence is not situational. It becomes structural, built into the nervous system, automatic, internalized. That is the power of rewiring the mind. That is the rule. That is the principle. That is the system. Summarized operationally. Daily mental rehearsal. Visualize success in situations that create doubt. Repeat daily. Thought discipline. Observe, interrupt, and replace negative patterns. Repeat daily. Micro decisions. Act decisively on small tasks. Track outcomes. Repeat daily. Repetition and integration. Neural pathways compound confidence. Structure builds certainty. Habit solidifies identity. You have a choice. You can continue to react to uncertainty. You can allow hesitation to dictate action, or you can implement these systems. You can train your mind. You can build automatic confidence. Certainty is a choice. Certainty is a habit. Certainty can be trained. That is the principle. That is the system. That is the rule. As this chapter concludes, carry one instruction forward. Schedule a daily visualization session. Observe thought patterns. Track micro decisions executed with confidence. Repeat without exception. That is preparation for the next stage. In the next chapter, we will examine how to stop waiting and start initiating. The process of converting thought into decisive, confidence-building action. For now, act. Train. Repeat. Certainty is a choice. Certainty is a habit. Certainty can be trained. Chapter 6. Stop waiting, start initiating. Confidence does not come from planning. It does not come from preparation alone. It does not come from waiting for the perfect moment. Confidence grows in the doing. That is the principle. Hesitation is the enemy. You have a choice. You can wait, or you can act. That is the key. Action conquers fear. Action builds belief. Action creates confidence. Most people wait. They wait for certainty. They wait for approval. They wait for the perfect conditions. That is a flaw. The perfect moment rarely exists. Waiting trains doubt. Waiting trains indecision. Waiting reinforces the belief that you are incapable. That is not the path. The path is action. The path is initiative. The path is doing. Every action compounds belief. Every hesitation compounds doubt. You do not need their permission. You do not need approval. You only need discipline. That is the system. That is the rule. Consider people who consistently act. They volunteer ideas in meetings. They start projects before being asked. They speak up in discussions where others remain silent. They act quietly. They act deliberately. They do not wait for validation. Their confidence grows automatically. Their belief becomes structural. Their nervous system adapts to execution. This is not luck. It is repeated practice. It is deliberate action. It is discipline. Action conquers fear. Action builds belief. Action creates confidence. Rule 1. Identify one initiation task daily. Each day, choose one action that you would normally delay. Speak up. Send a proposal. Start a project. Do it immediately. Track it privately. Completion is the measure of success. Not recognition. Not praise. Not applause. Action strengthens self-trust. Hesitation weakens it. Repetition compounds confidence. That is the system. That is the rule. That is the principle. Rule 2. Break the waiting habit. Notice when you pause for certainty. Notice when you delay for reassurance. Interrupt the pattern immediately. Begin the task. Complete the task. Reflect on the result. Do not seek external validation. Do not wait for recognition. The nervous system learns through repeated initiation. The mind adapts. Habit replaces hesitation. Action conquers fear. Action builds belief. Action creates confidence. Rule 3. Track micro-actions. Not all actions must be large. Micro-actions build the same principle. Contribute one idea in a meeting. Volunteer for one small responsibility. Complete one minor task ahead of schedule. Each micro-action reinforces competence. Each micro-action trains the mind to act decisively. Habit compounds into identity. Identity composes belief. Repetition converts fear into automatic response. Action is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Most people confuse preparation with action. They overplan. They overthink. They polish endlessly. That is a flaw. Planning without execution is wasted energy. Action validates planning. Action tests skill. Action confirms capability. Confidence is born in execution, not analysis. Repetition of deliberate initiation solidifies the skill of certainty. Action conquers fear. Action builds belief. Action creates confidence. Consider a practical example. An employee hesitates to speak up in a meeting. He rehearses responses in his mind. He waits for the exact phrasing. He delays action. Opportunity passes. Confidence erodes silently. Another employee raises 1 point early. No preparation. No rehearsal. One action executed decisively. Nervous system records competence. Self-trust grows. Next time, action occurs with more certainty. Habit forms. Identity adapts. Confidence compounds. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Operational implementation. Daily initiation exercise. Select one task you would normally delay. Execute it before external input. Track completion privately. Repeat daily. Interrupt waiting patterns. Observe hesitation. Begin action immediately. Reflect internally. Repeat consistently. Micro-action accumulation. Identify small, repeatable actions that reinforce execution. Track privately. Repeat daily. Repetition is mandatory. 1 initiated action is a seed. 10 repeated actions form a pattern. 30 repeated actions form identity. 60 repeated actions solidify structural confidence. The brain adapts to execution. Hesitation weakens. Action strengthens. Fear diminishes. Belief increases. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Action conquers fear. Action builds belief. Action creates confidence. Expect resistance. The mind will prefer planning. The mind will seek reassurance. The mind will attempt to delay. That is natural. That is expected. Do not yield. Persist. Repeat. Initiate daily. Track micro-actions. Reinforce belief silently. Build structural confidence. Habit becomes identity. Identity becomes automatic execution. That is the principle. That is the system. That is the rule. Summarized operationally. Daily initiation task. Choose 1 action you would normally delay. Execute immediately. Repeat daily. Interrupt waiting patterns. Observe hesitation. Act decisively. Reflect internally. Repeat daily. Micro-action tracking. Complete small actions consistently. Reinforce competence. Repeat daily. Repetition and integration. Habit compounds into identity. Identity compounds into belief. Belief becomes automatic confidence. You have a choice. You can continue to wait. You can continue to delay. You can continue to seek perfection. Or you can act. You can initiate. You can execute. Action conquers fear. Action builds belief. Action creates confidence. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. As this chapter concludes, take 1 instruction forward. Identify 1 action today that you would normally defer. Complete it immediately. Track it privately. Repeat without exception. That is preparation for the next stage. In the next chapter, we will examine how body language is non-negotiable. The structural ways your physical presence reinforces internal confidence. For now, act. Execute. Reinforce. Action conquers fear. Action builds belief. Action creates confidence. Chapter 7. Body language is non-negotiable. Confidence begins with the body. It is communicated physically before it is felt mentally. Posture, eye contact, tone, gesture. These are not optional. They are structural. You have a choice. You can slouch, avert your gaze, and mumble. Or you can stand tall, project presence, and speak deliberately. That is the key. Your body leads. Your mind follows. On your posture. On your power. Most people underestimate the connection between physical presence and internal belief. They assume confidence is purely mental. That is a flaw. The body communicates to the brain. It signals competence. It signals readiness. It signals authority. Repeated physical discipline trains internal certainty. Habitual body control strengthens self-trust. That is the principle. That is the system. That is the rule. Consider the posture of elite performers. CEOs, public speakers, athletes. They maintain an upright stance. Shoulders back, chest open, feet planted. Every movement deliberate. Their body projects control, calm, and focus. Internally, the mind adapts. Tension decreases. Breathing stabilizes. Hormonal response adjusts. Confidence increases naturally. This is not vanity. It is functional. It is structural. Your body leads. Your mind follows. On your posture. On your power. Rule 1. Posture as a daily system. Throughout the day, monitor your posture. Stand tall. Sit upright. Align spine. Shoulder blades back. Head level. Repetition trains the nervous system to maintain presence automatically. Habit converts posture into identity. Identity reinforces belief. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Your body leads. Your mind follows. Own your posture. Own your power. Rule 2. Eye contact as authority. Observe your gaze in interactions. Avoid shuffling eyes or lowering your head. Meet the other person's eyes deliberately. Hold steady, calm focus. Eye contact communicates certainty before words are spoken. Repetition builds comfort and internal trust. Nervousness diminishes. Internal confidence strengthens. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Your body leads. Your mind follows. Own your posture. Own your power. Rule 3. Control breathing as a foundation. Breathing regulates the nervous system. Shallow, rapid breaths trigger anxiety. Deep, deliberate breaths signal control. Practice inhaling for 4 counts, holding for 2, exhaling for 6. Repeat throughout the day. Use before speaking, presenting, or acting under pressure. Controlled breathing reinforces calm, presence, and decisiveness. Habit strengthens internal confidence. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Your body leads. Your mind follows. Own your posture. Own your power. Rule 4. Deliberate gestures as reinforcement. Movement communicates intention. Avoid fidgeting. Avoid closed arms. Move hands deliberately when emphasizing points. Each gesture reinforces internal certainty. Each controlled movement signals authority to both self and others. Habit compounds internal belief. Identity shifts from reactive to deliberate. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Your body leads. Your mind follows. Own your posture. Own your power. Most people ignore micro-behaviors. Slumping in a chair. Avoiding eye contact. Rushed movements. These small actions erode self-trust. Over time, they become habitual. Confidence falters silently. You have a choice. Interrupt default behavior. Replace with deliberate physical control. Stand. Look. Breathe. Move with intention. Repetition strengthens internal certainty. Your body leads. Your mind follows. Own your posture. Own your power. Practical daily implementation. Posture drill. Every hour, check alignment. Adjust shoulders, spine, and head. Reinforce upright stance. Repeat daily. Eye contact practice. During conversations, hold steady gaze for 2 to 3 seconds at a time. Observe internal response. Repeat daily. Breathing exercise. Schedule 5 minutes morning and evening for controlled breath patterns. Use before critical actions. Repeat daily. Deliberate gesture practice. Record brief speech or conversation. Observe gestures. Correct fidgeting or reactive movements. Repeat daily. Repetition is mandatory. 1 session reinforces awareness. 10 sessions establish pattern. 30 sessions internalize habit. 60 sessions solidify identity. Physical discipline reshapes neural pathways. Confidence becomes structural. Habit converts into automatic presence. The mind follows the body. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Your body leads. Your mind follows. Own your posture. Own your power. Expect discomfort. Adjusting physical habits feels unnatural. You will notice slouching, tension, and fidgeting more than before. That is normal. That is the test. Persist. Repeat drills consistently. Over time, deliberate body control becomes second nature. Internal confidence strengthens silently, reliably. Action and physical discipline compound belief. Your body leads. Your mind follows. Own your posture. Own your power. Summarized operationally. Posture drill. Align spine, shoulders, and head hourly. Repeat daily. Eye contact. Maintain deliberate gaze. Reinforce internal authority. Repeat daily. Breathing control. Deep, structured breaths before action. Repeat daily. Deliberate gestures. Move with purpose. Avoid reactive movements. Repeat daily. Repetition and integration. Physical discipline compounds internal belief. Mind follows body. Confidence becomes automatic. You have a choice. You can continue slumping, averting, and fidgeting, or you can take control of your physical presence. Posture, gaze, breathing, and gestures are non-negotiable. Your body leads. Your mind follows. Own your posture. Own your power. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. As this chapter concludes, carry one instruction forward. Throughout the day, monitor your posture, maintain deliberate eye contact, control your breathing, and move with intention. Repeat every hour. Reinforce belief silently. Prepare for the next stage. In the next chapter, we will examine the system that crushes self-doubt, a framework of small wins, accountability, and reflection that guarantees internal authority. For now, act. Repeat. Strengthen. Your body leads. Your mind follows. Own your posture. Own your power. Chapter 8. The system that crushes self-doubt. Self-doubt is silent. It creeps in unnoticed. It erodes confidence gradually, without fanfare. You have a choice. You can allow it to grow unchecked, or you can create a system to crush it before it starts. That is the key. Systems over motivation. Systems over mood. Systems guarantee confidence. Most people rely on motivation to act. They wait to feel ready. They wait for inspiration. That is a flaw. Motivation is fleeting. Mood is unpredictable. Confidence built on feeling alone is fragile. It collapses under stress, distraction, or criticism. That is the cost of reliance on emotion. Systems are structural. Systems are consistent. Systems enforce action regardless of doubt. That is the principle. That is the rule. That is the path. The system begins with small daily wins. Each completed task compounds into belief. Each micro-accomplishment signals competence to your mind. Examples: finish a task on time, complete a workout, organize your workspace, submit a report, practice a skill. Each action reinforces internal authority. Each completion shrinks doubt. Repetition turns small wins into structural confidence. Systems over motivation. Systems over mood. Systems guarantee confidence. Rule 1. Daily checklists every morning. Write 3 to 5 tasks that will be completed by day's end. Keep them measurable. Keep them realistic. Completion is the metric, not recognition. Track each win. Reflect briefly at the end of the day. Each checkmark reinforces capability. The brain adapts to completion. Habit compounds into certainty. Systems over motivation. Systems over mood. Systems guarantee confidence. Rule 2. Weekly wins at the end of each week. Review your small victories. Identify patterns. Celebrate completion privately. Observe growth and consistency. Recognize where you acted decisively without waiting for approval. Adjust for the upcoming week. Weekly review reinforces identity. Confidence accumulates silently. This is the medium-term reinforcement that converts isolated actions into structural belief. Systems over motivation. Systems over mood. Systems guarantee confidence. Rule 3. Monthly reflection sessions once per month. Review all actions, wins, and habits. Ask, which tasks strengthen my confidence? Which habits undermined it? Which doubts returned and why? Adjust the system to reinforce successful patterns. Remove or redesign weak patterns. These reflection sessions are not optional. They're a critical system for long-term internal authority. Over time, The monthly review guarantees continuous growth and prevents regression. Systems over motivation. Systems over mood. Systems guarantee confidence. Understand this. Self-doubt grows when action is inconsistent, when tasks are left incomplete, when reflection is absent, when wins are untracked. Each missed action signals failure to your nervous system. Each skipped reflection reinforces uncertainty. This is why systems are non-negotiable. Consistency removes uncertainty. Structure replaces doubt. Habit compounds belief. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Consider a real-world scenario. An individual wants to improve competence at work. Without a system, they act inconsistently. Tasks remain incomplete. Wins go untracked. Confidence fluctuates. Doubt grows silently. Another individual creates a daily checklist, tracks weekly wins, and conducts a monthly reflection. Every completed task signals capability. Every micro-win compounds. Confidence becomes structural, not situational. Hesitation diminishes. Self-trust grows automatically. Systems over motivation. Systems over mood. Systems guarantee confidence. Integration is critical. Daily checklists produce immediate micro-wins. Weekly reviews consolidate those wins into patterns. Monthly reflection solidifies identity and reinforces the system. All three layers work together. One reinforces the other. One prevents regression. One guarantees continuous growth. Confidence becomes automatic. Self-doubt becomes irrelevant. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Expect resistance. The brain will resist structure. You may feel boredom or frustration. That is normal. That is expected. Systems are designed to enforce action even when feelings oppose it. Discomfort signals that growth is occurring. Persist. Repeat daily, weekly, monthly. The nervous system adapts. Belief compounds. Internal authority strengthens. Systems over motivation. Systems over mood. Systems guarantee confidence. Practical implementation. Daily checklist. List 3 to 5 tasks. Execute without fail. Track completion. Repeat daily. Weekly review. Examine completed tasks. Identify patterns. Reinforce wins. Adjust weaknesses. Repeat weekly. Monthly reflection. Audit all actions and habits. Refine the system. Remove weak points. Reinforce successful patterns. Repeat monthly. Integration. Daily, weekly, monthly layers compound confidence, preventing doubt from gaining traction. Repetition is mandatory. 1 completed task signals competence. 10 repeated tasks establish patterns. 30 repeated tasks reinforce identity. 60 repeated tasks consolidate structural confidence. Each layer of the system compounds the previous layer. The nervous system adapts. Self-doubt loses influence. Action replaces uncertainty. That is the principle. That is the system. That is the rule. Systems over motivation. Systems over mood. Systems guarantee confidence. You have a choice. You can continue relying on feeling, waiting for motivation, and ignoring structure. Or you can build a system. You can enforce small wins daily, consolidate weekly, and reflect monthly. You can create structural confidence that persists under pressure. Systems over motivation. Systems over mood. Systems guarantee confidence. That is the principle. That is the rule. That is the system. As this chapter concludes, carry one instruction forward. Implement a daily checklist today. Track completion privately. Conduct a weekly review at the end of the week. Begin scheduling monthly reflection. Build the layers. Enforce consistency. Crush self-doubt before it starts. Prepare for the next stage. In the next chapter, we will examine the habit of absolute focus. the mental architecture that ensures uninterrupted concentration and decision-making. For now, act. Repeat. Reinforce. Systems over motivation. Systems over mood. Systems guarantee confidence. Chapter 9. Confidence is silent, not loud. True confidence is quiet. It does not demand attention. It does not seek validation. It does not boast. Loudness is insecurity. Silence is strength. Calm is power. You have a choice. You can fill your space with noise and approval seeking, or you can cultivate internal authority through quiet, deliberate action. That is the principle. That is the rule. Most people misunderstand confidence. They equate it with volume, spectacle, or recognition. They speak loudly to cover doubt. They exaggerate accomplishments to demand respect. That is a flaw. True confidence is structural. It is internal. It is consistent. It is silent. Those who act with quiet competence do not need to justify themselves. Others naturally recognize their authority. Silence commands respect because it signals certainty. Loudness signals lack of it. Loudness is insecurity. Silence is strength. Calm is power. Consider leaders and highly respected professionals. Rarely do they brag. Rarely do they over-explain. Rarely do they seek applause. Their actions speak before their words. Their presence communicates authority. Their decisions are deliberate. Their calm focus reinforces competence. The mind adapts to repeated behavior. The nervous system internalizes certainty. Identity shifts from reactive to controlled. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Rule 1. Minimize self-promotion. Do not feel the need to justify, explain, or boast. Let results speak. Track your actions privately. Reflect internally. Completion and mastery are enough. Repetition reinforces internal authority. External validation becomes unnecessary. Habit strengthens identity. Identity reinforces calm. Loudness is insecurity. Silence is strength. Calm is power. Rule 2. Practice deliberate pauses. When speaking or acting, pause before responding. Avoid filling every silence with words. Pausing demonstrates control and presence. The mind adapts to measured action. Others respond to calm certainty. Nervousness diminishes. Internal authority grows. Repetition of deliberate pause strengthens the system. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Loudness is insecurity. Silence is strength. Calm is power. Rule 3. Build competence privately. Confidence is earned in action, not announcement. Develop skills, complete tasks, achieve results, without seeking recognition. Track your progress internally. Observe the compounding effect of repeated mastery. Over time, competence becomes automatic. Doubt diminishes. Self-trust grows silently. Habit compounds into identity. Identity reinforces authority. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Loudness is insecurity. Silence is strength. Calm is power. Most people confuse noise with authority. They fill the room with words, gestures, and displays to cover self-doubt. This behavior is reactive. It is inconsistent. It undermines internal certainty. Quiet action, repeated daily, signals competence without demand. The nervous system learns from repeated mastery, not spectacle. Internal authority strengthens silently. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Loudness is insecurity. Silence is strength. Calm is power. Practical implementation. Limit self-promotion. Commit to completing tasks and achieving results without announcing them. Track progress privately. Repeat daily. Deliberate pauses. Before responding or acting, pause intentionally. Observe internal calm. Repeat consistently. Private competence building. Focus on skill development, mastery, and execution without seeking approval. Repeat daily. Integration. Results compound silently. Habit reinforces belief. Identity becomes calm authority. Repetition is mandatory. One silent act reinforces confidence. 10 repeated acts establish pattern. 30 repeated acts build identity. 60 repeated acts create automatic internal authority. Internal belief becomes structural. External validation becomes unnecessary. Nervous system adapts. Calm becomes default. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Loudness is insecurity. Silence is strength. Calm is power. Expect discomfort. Silence feels unnatural in a world that rewards spectacle. People will try to draw you into noise. You will feel pressure to justify or explain. That is normal. That is expected. Do not yield. Persist. Repeat acts of quiet competence. Over time, habit becomes identity. Identity becomes automatic internal authority. Loudness is insecurity. Silence is strength. Calm is power. Summarized operationally. Limit self-promotion. Achieve without announcing. Track internally. Repeat daily. Deliberate pauses. Act with measured timing. Build presence. Repeat daily. Private competence building. Develop skills, complete tasks, and reinforce internal authority silently. Repeat daily. Repetition and integration. Habits compound into identity. Identity compounds into calm, unshakable confidence. You have a choice. You can continue seeking attention and validation. You can continue reacting to the opinions of others. Or you can act with quiet competence. You can build skill silently. You can reinforce belief daily. Loudness is insecurity. Silence is strength. Calm is power. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. As this chapter concludes, carry one instruction forward. Complete a task today without announcing it. Pause deliberately in one conversation. Observe internal authority silently. Repeat daily. Prepare for the final stage. In the next chapter, we will examine the final habit. Make confidence automatic, where all systems integrate into effortless, structural self-assurance. For now, act. Repeat. Reinforce. Loudness is insecurity. Silence is strength. Calm is power. Chapter 10. Your life changes one choice at a time. Every day, you are presented with choices. Some seem insignificant. Others feel critical. Every choice matters. Each decision to act with courage, discipline, and self-trust compounds into confidence. Confidence is built moment by moment, choice by choice, habit by habit. That is the principle. That is the system. That is the rule. Most people underestimate the power of small decisions. They wait for monumental opportunities. They defer action, hoping for external validation. That is a flaw. Confidence is not created in grand gestures. It is reinforced in repeated micro-decisions. Each yes to growth strengthens belief. Each no to distraction protects focus. Each choice executed deliberately compounds internal authority. That is the key. Confidence is built moment by moment, choice by choice, habit by habit. Consider real-world examples. An individual says no to unnecessary meetings, yes to focused work, yes to skill development, and no to social comparison. Each micro-decision seems minor. Individually, they may go unnoticed. Over weeks and months, they accumulate. The nervous system internalizes certainty. Actions become habit. Identity shifts. Belief strengthens silently. Small, daily commitments reshape your identity. Confidence becomes structural. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Rule 1. Choose discipline over comfort. Every choice presents a tension between immediate comfort and long-term growth. Discipline builds competence. Comfort preserves doubt. Each time you choose discipline, you reinforce capability. Track these moments daily. Repetition transforms action into habit. Habit becomes identity. Identity produces automatic confidence. Confidence is built moment by moment, choice by choice, habit by habit. Rule 2. Choose action over hesitation. Hesitation compounds fear. Delay strengthens doubt. Immediate, deliberate action strengthens belief. Micro-actions, sending an email, completing a task, speaking up, initiating a project, train the nervous system to respond with certainty. Over time, action becomes default. Hesitation is replaced with decisiveness. Confidence is reinforced silently. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Confidence is built moment by moment, choice by choice, habit by habit. Rule 3. Choose reflection over reaction every day. Review the choices you made. Ask, did I act deliberately? Did I reinforce belief or doubt? Did I honor my priorities? Reflection consolidates the system. It strengthens internal feedback loops. It prevents regression. It enforces accountability. Habit, repeated daily, compounds into structural authority. Confidence becomes automatic. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Confidence is built moment by moment, choice by choice, habit by habit. Most people surrender control of confidence to external factors. Praise, criticism, mood, and circumstance dictate belief. That is a flaw. Confidence cannot be outsourced. It is structural. It is internal. It is built one choice at a time. Every time you act deliberately, you reinforce certainty. Every time you defer to distraction or doubt, you weaken it. You have a choice. Build or erode. Repeat or hesitate. That is the principle. That is the system. That is the rule. Confidence is built moment by moment, choice by choice, habit by habit. Consider the compound effect. One disciplined decision per day may seem small. 10 disciplined decisions in 10 days form a pattern. 30 disciplined decisions in 1 month shift identity. 60 disciplined decisions in 2 months solidify structural confidence. Repetition is mandatory. 1 choice reinforces belief. 10 choices establish pattern. 30 choices redefine identity. 60 choices build unstoppable internal authority. Small actions compound into large results. Habit becomes automatic. Belief becomes internalized. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Confidence is built moment by moment, choice by choice, habit by habit. Expect resistance. The mind will prefer comfort. The nervous system will seek ease. Distraction, procrastination, and fear will attempt to dominate. That is normal. That is expected. Do not yield. Persist. Repeat choices deliberately. Reinforce internal authority. Over time, decision-making becomes instinctive. Hesitation becomes rare. Confidence becomes automatic. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Confidence is built moment by moment, choice by choice, habit by habit. Practical implementation. Daily choice tracking. Write 3 key decisions each morning that will reinforce growth and confidence. Execute them deliberately. Reflect privately. Repeat daily. Immediate action drill. When hesitation appears, act decisively on 1 micro task immediately. Track internally. Repeat daily. Reflection practice. End each day by reviewing decisions. Ask if they reinforce belief or doubt. Adjust tomorrow's choices. Repeat daily. Integration. Daily choices compound into habitual action. Habit forms identity. Identity produces automatic confidence. Remember this principle. You cannot control external validation, praise, or circumstance. You can control your choices. You can control your action. You can control your habit. Every choice you make either reinforces confidence or allows doubt. Repetition compounds. Habit builds identity. Identity produces structural belief. Confidence is built moment by moment, choice by choice, habit by habit. You have a choice. You can continue reacting to the world. You can continue waiting for perfect conditions. Or you can act. You can choose growth. You can choose discipline. You can choose self-trust. Each choice strengthens belief. Each repeated choice strengthens identity. Each habit builds unstoppable internal authority. That is the system. That is the principle. That is the rule. Confidence is built moment by moment, choice by choice, habit by habit. As this audiobook concludes, carry one instruction forward. For the next 30 days, track one small, deliberate choice each day that reinforces growth, acts decisively, and strengthens belief. Execute, reflect, repeat, build habit, compound results. Change your life silently, structurally, and inevitably. If you have found value in these systems, subscribe to the channel now. Each week, new content will help you reinforce discipline, focus, and self-mastery. Systems over motivation. Systems over mood. Systems guarantee confidence. Confidence is built moment by moment, choice by choice, habit by habit.